This area is this triangle A, B, C. This triangle is, it is the deadweight loss. The monopolist produces less than the socially efficient quantity, yes. So they need to produce here, but they are producing here at monopoly quantity, not the efficient quantity. So this that they are not producing, we call these monopolies are inefficient with respect to society. So now question is whether monopolist profit is because of is a social cost. No, the problem is not the profit. Earning profit is the right of every firm because it's their basic economic objective. Economic objective of the firm is to maximize its profit. The problem is not earning or maximizing profit. The problem is they are not producing enough. The problem is their inefficiency. They are not producing enough. They are producing less than the equilibrium. That is the biggest problem. Of course, if they decrease their price, they will increase their quantity. When they increase their quantity, their total revenue going to increase, but they are not doing so. And this creates a burden, a wedge, or a deadweight loss on the society. So high monopoly prices discourage some consumers not to buy, which are perfectly in line with the definition of demand, means they have ability and willingness. They have both, but they cannot buy. Right? So we are going to end our discussion here for a very short break, and after that, we'll start our discussion from here. Okay, class, welcome back after a short break. Okay, let's move forward. We talked about that the problem with the monopoly is not earning profit. The problem with the monopoly is that it is producing less than the equilibrium, which is supply equals demand, right? Okay, so if it is bad for the society, then what are the policies to handle those, to handle monopolies? Which means, what is the public policy? Which means, what is the government response to deal with the problems of monopoly? Because this is bad for the society. Number one, making monopolized industry more competitive. Number two, regulating the behavior of monopolies. Third, turning some private monopolies into public enterprises. And number four, doing nothing at all. So let's talk about one by one that how government should respond to monopoly. Number one, increasing competition with antitrust law, which means antitrust law, every country has its own, so we are not going deep into the antitrust laws. Just remember that antitrust laws give governments various ways to promote competition. Number one, they allow governments to prevent mergers. If two companies are merging together, the government, through some law or some court orders, they can prevent this merger. They can say that no, you cannot merge together to become one company because we need to promote competition rather monopoly. For example, in some countries, if Coke and Pepsi, they want to join hands together, and when they join hands together, of course, they're going to increase the prices of beverages. So in that case, the government, through court orders, they can intervene, and they can say that, look, we don't approve this merger, this acquisition, this consolidation. We will order you to operate independently and compete with one another, rather joining hands together. Number two, they allow governments to break up companies. If already there is two huge company, big company who is controlling or who is the sole proprietor of that service, the government can intervene and can break up this company into two or three parts. For example, Shanghai, or Jiangsu company and Beijing company. So they divide this company into different parts, and then they allow different companies to compete with cost and with prices as well. Number two, regulating the behavior of the monopoly. That's pretty much interesting. That is, government may regulate the prices that the monopoly charges. Government can set the prices. You cannot charge price above than that. So the allocation of resources will be efficient if prices is set to equal to marginal cost. If price is equal to marginal cost, right? So look at our perfect competition pricing strategy. Price is equal to every total cost is equal to MC is equal to MR. In long run, everything is equal. Also equal to AR. So if the government maintain the price is equal to MC, then what are the benefits and what are the disadvantages? So let's first see a very nice video which shows, should government regulate the monopolies and charging price is equal to MC? Let's talk about this.
Is monopoly a justification for government regulation? A lot of people have been very concerned about monopolies in markets, and that concern leads people to ask, is there a form of government intervention that can mitigate that problem, either by breaking up a big firm into smaller firms so that they compete against each other, or by regulating the profits the firm earns or the prices it can charge for its product. Two things that really discipline monopoly firms' ability to charge high prices are consumer demand and how much we're willing to pay for their product or service, and the availability of competing products or services that are substitutes for that good. Another question that often comes up is the persistence of that monopoly over time. Even if there is some kind of market power or market dominance in a particular industry, does that erode over time or does it persist? And if it persists, is there some form of government regulation or intervention that would make consumers better off? One of the challenges in coming up with that kind of policy, though, is that any regulation that is going to reduce the profits of a monopoly is going to reduce the motivation, the lure, the incentive to the innovator to come in and enter that market and compete against the monopolist. And that's the core of the insight that we get from the economist Joseph Schumpeter, who really argued that the competitive process is one of competition for market dominance, and that these monopoly profits are the lure, they're the carrot that brings innovators in so that they can come up with a new, better product or service, a different product or service to compete against the monopolist. When competition takes that form, any kind of government regulation or government activity to break up big firms into smaller firms that compete against each other may break up that temporary monopoly lure and may actually undermine innovation and undermine competition. What really keeps monopolies from persisting over time is entry. The ability of entrepreneurs, innovators, competitors to enter the market and compete against the monopoly firm and offer consumers new or different products and services that will lead the original monopoly to reduce its prices because of this competition. One other important idea to consider is that the form the government regulation can take may also itself provide an entry barrier, some kind of cost that makes it harder for competitors to come in and compete in markets. And this is one of the really important transformational things that we've experienced in the past 2 decades with the internet is that the internet reduces those costs of starting up new business and communicating your value proposition to more consumers. And so innovation, such as the internet, actually makes markets richer and more competitive because individuals strive for achieving that market dominance, but they're all doing it at the same time and competing against each other, offering a wide variety of products and services.
Okay, I hope you get some idea at what this lady is talking about. So let's talk about this. So in practice, the regulators will allow monopolists to keep some of the benefits from lower cost in the form of higher profits, a practical that requires some departure from marginal cost pricing. So what basically they are trying to say, let me share you a whiteboard. So if the government sets the price is go to MC, and what is MC? It is change in total cost divided by change in quantity, right? So if the government sets the price is equal to MC, so what happened? Now the goal of the firm is to minimize the cost and any kind of cost. Marginal cost is what is the cost of selling one extra unit. So in order to remain at high prices, the monopolists, they will, we can say that they will not encourage innovation, because innovation will be reducing the marginal cost, because a new technology, when they adopt new technology, the costs start decreasing. But if the costs start decreasing, the government will push the monopolists to decrease the cost. So if government regulate the prices, then basically monopolists, they discourage the innovation. Because innovation, when they introduce innovation is going to be giving them, or gonna give them lower cost, so lower cost of production. So when decrease in cost,